Welcome to Chapter 1. Bible verse we're going to look at today is Proverbs 20, verse 3 from the New International Version. It is to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. That would be something we need to learn as well as what we need to teach our students. Okay, let me adjust this a little bit to get this on the screen properly. Might have to move it around now and then. So some things that we're going to look at today are what is educational psychology? How will it help you be a better teacher? Is it a science or is it an art? And what are some complicating factors that researchers have when they try to study behavior and thought processes, because we cannot see inside a brain. And like I said, good teaching is partly an art and partly a science. And then how can you become a reflective teacher, help you growing from a novice or a beginning teacher to an expert in your field? Those are the things we're going to look at in this lesson. Just doesn't seem to stay on the screen exactly, so I might have to adjust this now and then. So what is educational psychology? Educational psychology is a scientific discipline that uses psychological constructs and research methods to understand how the various characteristics of students, how do the characteristics of students and also teachers and the characteristic of learning tasks and educational settings, they all interact to produce the everyday behaviors we see in school settings. There's a lot of things that goes into what happens in the classroom. A lot of things go in to what happens in the classroom. And here we have them listed as characteristics of the students, the teachers, the things that we ask the students to do, and then the setting that in which they're going to do the things all have an impact, and that is what on how children learn, and that is what educational psychology is. We try to look into those things. One thing that can really help you to meet your students' needs is to know your own makeup. How do you learn? How do you think about things? How do you organize things? And also those kinds of things about your students also. So that would involve the physical needs, and that would be in our study of psychology. Their social, what is their social development? What is their emotional development at the age that you will be teaching? And then, of course, cognitive development, which has to do with the content and learning aspects of school. And included in that are that affects all of these things as their cultural, the culture they come from. There's a lot of different cultures even in the United States, in different parts of the United States. Their social differences, their emotional, intellectual differences, and also these all affect learning and how they solve problems and their processes. I've just finished reading tonight an article on how students from middle-class homes are more likely to ask for help, and students from lower-income families seem to think that would be a bother, or the teacher would be upset if you ask for help. So there's all these differences that we must address, and they have to do with a lot of things that we can't control. Also, their self-esteem, how capable do they feel, and motivation. That is really, really important, that you try to motivate your students, and that's a chapter we'll also be studying. And how does testing and measurement figure into the classroom, and creative lesson plans that will be effective are also very important. So how can you become a better teacher? First of all, you need to have an open mind and a positive attitude. That is, when you come into the classroom, then you've got to be able to take instruction from other people and suggestions, and you've got to believe that this is where you're supposed to be. It's very complex, this enterprise is. Some of the things we're going to look at are many factors that affect teaching and learning, and we kind of already talked about some of those earlier. And we're going to look at what research tells teachers. How does it inform teachers? Educational psychology offers useful and tested ideas for improving instruction because of the research that's been done. And then how does the coursework that you take at in a teacher education program prepare you? And we'll also look at how alternative programs look at the research that shows how alternative programs prepare teachers also. And it's very complex, and there are teaching standards, and we get ours from, right now we're with NCATE, which is the National Association for Teacher Educators, and now we're going with CAPE, and right off the top of my head I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but it's similar. It's about teacher educators. And there are five propositions that they use that teachers need to have these characteristics. First of all, of course, they must be committed to their students. It's not that you get the job because it makes a lot of money or anything like that. You must be committed to the students and their learning if you're going to be an effective teacher. You also need to know the subjects that you teach, but not only the subjects you teach, but also how to teach them to students. So that's why it's so very important to learn how to develop good lesson plans. And they also are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. That means they've got to make decisions on their feet, that change with what's happening in the classroom. And there's going to, a little later in this presentation, there's going to be some areas that are problematic for teachers who are ineffective, some of the problems they have. And they have to think systematically. That's where that reflection comes in about their practice and learn from experience, looking at what has happened, why it's happened, and thinking of ways to make it better. And they always need to be members of learning communities. That means you'll meet with your department chairs, you will meet with your other teachers in your grade level, and all of these things go along with our conceptual framework, which is effective practitioners. They know how to teach, caring leaders, so they have to be committed to their students, and they have to be lifelong learners because they're part of a learning community. Some examples of how psychology, the research in psychology, informs teachers are some things that we have found that help teachers become effective are they use the more advanced students to tutor less advanced, and we'll learn about that with Vygotsky. It's called scaffolding. They also give positive reinforcement, but also corrective feedback so students can make adjustments. And they have high expectations. They communicate to the students about expectations and have high expectations for all learners, and require students respond to higher order questions, which are Bloom's taxonomy, and we need to go beyond just knowledge questions or yes or no questions. We need to get them to think, analyze, synthesize, evaluate. So we have found that through research, and also provide students with cues about upcoming tasks. Give them advanced organizers about what they're going to be doing and explain it to them. That always helps. Some other examples are teach students how to monitor and improve their own learning. Monitoring their own learning is what we call metacognition.